Here we are going to look at the Z button on the calculator. The Z button is the Z-score, so we are dealing with the normal curve, and there's three different situations that we have when we're using this. We are usually given the area under the curve or the percentage under the curve, and we are working backwards to figure out what Z-score we are at on the curve. So there are three different scenarios. Let me draw three curves here. The calculator button on the Z, you're going to put into a percentage or a decimal. So a lot of times it's talking about the confidence level or the level of significance or the percentage under the curve or the area under the curve, and you are trying to find the Z-score. So it always gives you to the right. So that is one thing to note. So the right side of the curve, unless we are looking to the right side of the curve, and we are going to say we want to find out what Z-score goes along with 15% or 0.15% under the curve. So 50% of the curve is shaded right there in green. So we want to know what Z-score goes along with that. What Z-score goes along with that. So this is what the calculator is going to give us to us. We don't have to do any work to get this one. So jump over to the calculator, and you are going to jump over to the calculator, and you will see Z of 0.15 equals. And my Z-score is 1.036. So the Z-score that goes along with 15% to the right is 1.036. All right, so that one's what the calculator gives you automatically. If we're going to do to the left, let's say 25% this time. Let's say this accounts for 25, so 0.25 or 25%. So the red part is 25% of the shade curve. So this time again, we're still trying to find the Z-score, but we want to know what area to the left, okay, is 25%. So what happens here is since the calculator all gives us to the right, what we are going to do is still find the area to the right. Okay, so we are going to do 0.25 in the calculator. So we are going to find the area to the right, where that's 0.25. But since this is symmetrical, we know whatever Z-score we get here is going to match up with the negative Z on this side. So all we have to do is change it to a negative number, and we would get our answer. So, for example, in our calculator, we just put Z 0.25 or 0.25, and we get 0.674. So go back here. So this area is what the calculator is actually giving us, 0.674. But we want this side. Since we want this side, we want the left. But since we want the left side, we are actually going to make it negative 0.674. And that would be our answer. So since the calculator gives us to the right, to flip it to the left side, we just change it to negative. And the last scenario is what happens if we want like the middle 90%. So we'll say the middle 90%. So I want to find the middle 90% of this curve. Okay, so we are looking for the middle 90%, or 0.90. So the easiest way to look at this is if the middle 90% is what we're looking for, let's figure out how much is on the outside of that. So if we do 100% minus 90%, or 1 minus 0.9, we get 0.1 or 10%. So that leaves us with 10% on the outside. So that's 10% here and here. Okay. Since we're symmetrical again, what we actually need to do to figure out our number is take that 10% and divide it by 2, and we get 0.05. So this right here area accounts for 0.05, and this area right here accounts for 0.05. Okay, so sometimes you will see in the notes, this written as Z alpha divided by 2, because they are taking the 10% divided by 2 to get each side, the right and the left side. That will come later on down the road. All right, so now actually finding this is even a little bit more tricky, because we know the calculator is going to give us to the area to the right. So when we put it in the calculator, we are going to end up getting this right here, the 0.05, and it will tell us what this number is. So a lot of times on ALEKS, what it's going to do is ask for two blanks here, and it's going to give you a negative blank and a positive blank, because remember, to find the left side, it's just going to be that same number, but it's going to be negative. So a lot of times you're going to have two answers on here, because you have a positive and a negative side to account for the 0.05 on both sides, which gives you 10% on the outside and 90% on the inside. So we go back to the calculator. And we hit the Z 0.05 equals, and that is 1.645. So my Z here should be 1.645, and this should be negative 1.645, and that would be the two Z scores that match up with the 90% in the middle.